my name is Caroline. Welcome to my channel, my little corner of the internet where I talk all about cross-stitch, sewing, knitting and all the other crafty things I get up to. And today is a Flosstube extra. I want to talk all about my 2024 wrap-up, stats and information, what I managed to do in the last year, and also share with you my plans for this year 2025. I had hoped to have this video up already for basically a week now. I filmed about a week ago, and then when I went to editing, my sound was corrupted. My mom, who was next to me while I was editing, meant that I sounded like a tech monster. And I guess you do not want to hear that. So here I am, a little bit late, trying again. So as I said, let's start then with 2024, a little wrap up. I have been tracking my stitching for the whole of 2024. I am using Markup RXP to do all my marking and also to get my stats of how many stitches I did in a day, how many and which projects I worked on. And then I use Notion. I use Stitchy Nutty's Notion template, and I track daily what and how much I stitch. So this made it quite easy for me now to look back and just to pull out some stats. In the year 2024, which was also the first full year of me cross-stitching, I had 67 new starts. I was a little bit surprised by that number, I have to say. I didn't think it was that many, but then when I think back to, let's say, May, September, October, yeah, I can see how I did 67 new starts. Last year, I also had 39 finishes. And now I'm a little bit sad that I didn't get one more to make it around 40. Oh well, I could have planned that better, maybe for this year, but even so, 39 finishes is very good, I think. And I also had some UFOs. And in total, the WIP count as of December 31st that I had was 41 ongoing WIPs. I had toyed with the idea of trying to have 40 or less. Before that, I was at 50 or less, which I reached easily. But then in December, I just wanted to have some fun with new starts. So I abandoned that goal and just, tried to finish some more things. And 41 WIPs going into 2025 I'm totally fine with that number. I'm also basically tracking how many stitches I do each day. And I made a total of all the months. And I managed 257,906 stitches in 2024. Wow! I did not think it was that much. My best stitching month was November with just over 26,000 stitches. How did I do that? And the month with the least stitches was July with just over 15,000 stitches. And with that, it's not quite accurate. Why? So with the stitches I'm tracking, not included are backstitch with most of the patterns, because Markup doesn't track the backstitch. It shows it, but you cannot mark it off. And for example, in July, I had been doing all the backstitch of one piece that had tons of backstitch and French knots. So that is missing there. And also this year added just a few patterns from paper. I do not like to stitch from paper. I very much prefer to do it digitally, but I can do it if I have to. And for those, I don't track the stitches. It's only small, so yeah, it's a little bit more than the 257,906, but even that is wow. On top of that, I have some more numbers that are interesting. I went to 3 retreats in 2024. I went to Big Stitch, UK, I went to Stitch Basel, and I went to Stitch in London. And I enjoyed every one of them, and I'm so happy to have met some stitchy friends in real life. But on top of that, I did 2 online retreats. This was the Midsummer Stitch in July and the Jingle Ball in December. And I also did countless wonderful stitchy zooms with my stitchy friends. And I think those were the highlight of my year. Yes, all the in-person retreats were wonderful and so nice to meet people in person and to see them and to see what they're stitching on. But the very regular stitchy zooms with my friends are, I think, what carried me through the year, through hard times, and I cannot wait to have some more stitchy time with them over Zoom this year. And I'm just so glad that we have that technology that enables us to do it worldwide. Yeah. And with that, let's talk about plans. At first, I wasn't sure if I wanted to make plans for 2025 or if I wanted to make some. I didn't think of what I wanted to do. But then in the last few weeks of the last year, it all somehow came together. And it is what it is right now. I'm curious to see how this will evolve through the year, if I stick to my plans, if I make some changes to them. Yeah, let's see and let's get started. The first plan I have is one that I have talked about quite a bit before because this plan has been set in motion last October. My first plan and my big goal for the year is to finish Fruits of Plenty by Modern Folk Embroidery by, let's say, the beginning of October. I hope to go back to stitch in London and to finish it there. So for Fruits of Plenty, it's a huge piece. I had a little bit done before, but still quite a bit left. And I calculated I had to do 750 stitches on it every day to get it done in time with, I think, a few weeks to spare. And I can show you the whole piece right now. Usually I have it in a Q-snap, but yesterday I did this week's stitching and then I had to move the Q-snap anyway. So here we are. It looks so stunning. So this is where we are at the moment at 41.41%. I'm doing this on 32 count Lucan by Zweigart, 2/2 with anchor 844 and 1044. And yeah, oh, it's stunning. It's going to be huge because this where it's folded is basically the middle line, and I have an even border around this piece. So I like to stitch on that. This is very comforting stitching. I like to do it on my Lowry stand, two-handed, so it goes quite quickly. And yeah, so I will continue working on this 750 or a little bit more each week to get it done in October. And while I was working on this very big piece, I got to think about all the other BAPs or big ass projects or big awesome projects, however you would like to call it, and that I have, and that I really want to get some progress on them this year. Not to neglect them because there is a lot to do on them. So I counted all of them up, and I was also kind of intrigued to finally try Whipgo. And as it happens, I have exactly 12 BAPs apart from Fruits of Plenty. And the Whipgo board has 25 spaces with the opportunity to have one free space. So maybe let's backtrack a little bit. What is Whipgo? If you haven't heard of it before, Whipgo is the brainchild from Jessie of Jessie Marie Does Stuff. And it's basically a bingo board where you put in your cross-stitch pieces and also what goals you have for them. And each month, 2 numbers get called and you work on the project you have for that number or the prompts or whatever you would like and try to reach the goal. Since a year has 12 months, there is one month where there will be 3 numbers called, and this is the month whenever the number 13 will be called. So for me, since I had 12 projects exactly. Number 13 is free space for me, and all of the other projects I have on there 2 times. I made up a little nice graphic for me and for you to keep track of where I am and what I'm doing. Obviously, since it is Tuesday, January 7th already, January's Whipgo numbers have been called, I think, 2 weeks ago. I won't show you all of my projects right now. If you're curious at the moment, you could go back to my whip parade that I did in September, because most of my BAPs have already been whips back then. I will show you the 2 that were called for January today. So my goal for all my BAPs from the Whipgo board will be to do 1,000 stitches each time they're called. So each of them should get at least 2,000 stitches this year. The first one that was called, of course, is a Christmas piece in January. How could it be otherwise? This is Christmas Quaker by Daily Pattern Post. And I already have this in a Q-snap, and I already started my January Whipgo rotation. Not done yet, but I started because I thought I had filmed this before. So yeah, this is where I am at the moment. And I got 300 stitches in this Quaker motif in here. So there's just under 700 stitches left for January for this. This is stitched on 32 count opalescent natural by Swigert, and I'm using my own colors. There's some overdyes, it's Weeks and Classic Colorworks, then Petite Treasure Braid, and just white. Christmas in January, why not? And the second BAP that I will be working on in January is Albert and Effie by Long Dog Samplers. This is my one and only long dog I have as a whip. I haven't started this one yet for January. And this is where we are. Is it the right way up? Yes. So this is on Deep Impact Linen by Extra U Designs. It is a 36 count linen. And I'm using Sulky thread 1/2. And this is what I have so far. This is so gorgeous. You don't see that pattern a lot. So I will be working on this for at least 1,000 stitches in January. And the Sulky thread I'm using is number 1197. I have one more goal for a bigger project for this year, but this is a secondary or tertiary goal. This is not my main focus, but if I manage to do it, fine. So I started Christmas Garden by Blackbird Designs on December 25th. And then I realized that it wasn't as big as I thought it was. And if I did 1,000 stitches each month, plus a little bit extra in July and December this year, I could get it done by Christmas 2025. This is what I have so far. This is almost 2,000 stitches that I did in 2 days, I think. I'm stitching this on 40 count light nougat linen by Extra U Designs with my own Mrs. Sedas and Silks for You conversion. So the colors are different than in the original. Yeah, as I said, I would love to get this done by December, but if I don't manage, the other ones will be bigger, or the other goals will be my priority. Okay, on to my next goal. I have talked about this a little bit in my last regular Flosstube video, but I want to explain more in detail. So I have been watching and very much enjoying the videos from Jessie Marie Does Stuff, and Sarah Stitching Mommy. And they were talking about a new way of figuring out what to stitch on, and it's temperature stitching. With that, it's not the kind of temperature stitching that you stitch a certain motif in a color that is associated with a temperature each day. No, for this, you pick a number of projects, assign them to a digit, and whatever temperature digit that day is, you stitch on your project a certain number of stitches or a certain amount of time. If you want to hear this properly explained, I can recommend those two channels to you. And I think there's also Small Town Stitches that does this stitching. There might be others, but I don't have the names in my head right now. I know this game basically from Jessie and Sarah. What I did for me is a mixture, a little bit of Jessie Marie and Sarah's approaches. So I'm taking the temperature in Celsius and the last digit of the day's temperature. So if it's 10 degrees Celsius, it's the 0 that counts. Then I combined 0 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 5, and so on, so that I only have 5 different projects to work on for temperature stitching and not 10, because I think I would be overwhelmed with 10 and I'm getting more progress with only 5. And then I thought which projects to choose, and this is where I'm doing something very similar to Sarah of Stitchy Mommy. I picked the 5 projects that have the least amount of stitching to get them done. So by now that I stitched on all of them a little bit last week and this week, all of them are at about 2,000 stitches left. And for each day that a project is called, I want to do at least 100 stitches, but finish up my thread that is in my needle if at all possible. Does this still make any sense? I hope so. If you have any questions, just leave them down below and I can explain a little bit better. But so far, I hope it's clear what I mean. So let's go through all of my projects. The one that I have assigned to 0 and 1 is Sunflower Garden by the Old Barn Stitching Co. This is in my Sunflower Crocket, and here is my progress. I'm doing this 1/1 on 27 count Linda even weave in Whisper, and I'm using the Cottage Garden threads that were called for the yellow and green, and some other overdyes for the brown. This was not called this week, but last week it got just over 100 stitches. Now I don't have my sheet in front with me which project is assigned to which number of temperature digits. So the order might be confused, but that doesn't really matter now to you, does it? The second piece I'm working on for temperature stitching is Americana Blue by October House Fiber Arts. I'm doing my own version for this, where I'm only doing a band with sewing supplies and some motifs. So this is not that huge for me. And this got 300 stitches for the week. So I managed to put in this piece of the scissors and this piece down there. I'm doing this on 40 count old blue linen by XGU Designs with a Valdani thread in withered blue is the color. It's a variegated blue, 1/2. It's a little bit messy. So this is stitchy piece number 2 for temperature stitching. The next one is quite different. This also got quite a bit of progress already, thanks to this game. This is Busy Hands, Happy Heart by Hello from Liz Matthews. This was her Patreon piece for June or July, so this is not available at the moment, but I'm sure she will release it in the summertime. And I want to do the big pillow. It's hard to show. So this got in the last 2 weeks over 400 stitches. I finished up this big flower motif, the whole flower here, and the border to the corner. This is stitched on 20 count even weave that I overdyed myself with DMC 898 4/2. And it feels wrong and it uses so much DMC, but I think it will look gorgeous at the end. And this is so thick by now that I cannot get it into a Q-snap, so I cannot get the clamps closed, so I'm using Morgan hoop with that, but that's fine, so everything is together in here. The next one is one that I also really want done. This is Austrian One by Bleu de Chine. It was in a Just Cross Stitch magazine from 2009, I think. And this is where I am. I worked in here the last time I did this. This is on 32 count vintage stone or vintage marmor linen by Zweigart with DMC 115, that's the variegated red, 2/2. This is so fun to stitch, and now I have it in this big Q snap, and I have it in my Lowry when I stitch on it, and it's even more fun. So I'm so glad that this is getting good progress. And I just realized that I lost a piece of my needle minder, but we will figure this out later. And there's one more piece that I'm doing for temperature stitching. This is from the Seasons of the Heart book by Brenda Gervais with the needle and thread. I'm so glad that I can finally say it without stumbling over her last name. Don't know how that happened. It did. And right now I'm doing spring, and it is called for with overlaid colors, and I did my own color conversion, but it's not the same as just the nearest DMC would be. Yes, I took it as inspiration, but for example, the color of the house is completely different, and I just used colors that I liked. I'm using CXC threads and stitching this 1/2 on 35 count light mocha linen by Zweigart. And I just love the coverage that CXC gives. 1/2 on 35 or 36 count. And with temperature stitching in the last 2 weeks, I basically managed to get all of this in here done, and then added a little bit of doodads. There's under 2,000 stitches now left on this, and I'm so happy finally making some progress. All in all, so far, I really enjoy it. I try to do the temperature stitching on 1 or 2 days over the weekend and collect the temperatures for the last week. Yeah, we will see how this will go on. Once I have one project done, I just plan to rotate in one more that is close to being done. But we will see how that will go if I continue with this the whole year. But so far, I am having a lot of fun. And another goal in a way that I have is to focus on smalls. So I have, as I said, 13 BAPs, including my Fruits of Plenty. I have a lot of large projects, but I only have a few smalls. Of course, they're quicker, you start them, you finish them, but then you also have a lot of finishes. So what I want to do is, if I have new starts, if I want some new starts, I want to focus on smalls as much as possible. And I want to try to start at least 2 smalls each month. I had a few ideas already. I may have started one already, but I will show them to you in my regular Flosstubes. I had thought about doing a smalls or ornament Whipgo board or doing a wheel, but for now I just want to do seasonal pieces and what I'm drawn to. And once, if I'm stuck and don't know what to start, I can always go back to using a wheel. And I have one more plan I want to talk to you, and then we're done for today. It's a knitting goal. This whip is in a huge bag that my yarn advent came in. And in here lives my wonderful but also stressful Celtic Myths fingering weight shawl. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. I think the designer is a German woman named Astia Krebs or Anja Krebs. I will link it down below. So this was started in 2023. I have the whole body done. It's in a wonderful dark green merino wool that is so soft and wonderful. And I am stuck in the cable border. So this is what the cable border looks like. And for this, I have 2 problems with this. One, it's the first time ever that I have done cabling. And while it is not difficult to do per se, this is very intricate, at least for me as a beginner. So you have a lot of different ways to put your needle and purl and knit and stuff. So I have to be focused, and I cannot just do it alongside something else. and I'm a little bit hesitant always to pick it up. So from here to here, basically, this is one repeat of the cable pattern. The whole border has 33 repeats. And as of the beginning of this year, I had 7 done. Means that I had 26 left. In December, one day, I toyed with the idea of doing 1 repeat a day. Haha. It's too much. So now my goal is to do 1 repeat each week. If I can do that, I will have this done by July, when it's super hot, when it's summer, when I won't use the shawl. But if I don't do that, it will never get done. And this way, I at least hope to have it done and wearable when it gets cold again next winter. You have to think ahead. So yeah, I will track on. I did last week's repeat and I will maybe do this week's today or tomorrow. I love the color, I love how it looks. It's just a little hard for me to do. And this way I can also start some new knitting whips and work on some other knitting projects and not feel like I can only work on this. All right, and with that, this is all my plans and goals for the next year. And it's good that we're done because light is going away now, so before it gets too dark. Thank you so much for your patience that this video is so late. Well, if you haven't been patient, I didn't know. Do you have any 2025 goals, or what do you think of mine? Did I take on too much, too little? I would love to hear about it down below. And with that, I hope you have a wonderful day and I will see you soon. Bye!